It's a symbol of Germany's economic might, the chemicals factory of BASF in the city of Ludwigshafen. It helped spread Germany's industrial power around the world. Now, it's axing 2,600 jobs here. All the while, it's opening a new $10 billion factory in China. Germany has long been known as Europe's economic powerhouse, but this year, it's the world's worst performing leading economy. Its economic growth is down, its factories are less productive, and hope for its future success is waning.
As Germany's economic outlook shifts from grand to gloomy, the model behind its rise is thrown into doubt.
Why should he change a winning team? The success of the last 20 years probably has made a couple of people a bit blind, a bit insensitive to how the global economy has changed.
If left untreated, Germany's economic pain risks spreading to an entire region.
It's really the European Union where most of the trade for Germany takes place, exporting and importing at the same time. So if Germany's economy is not doing that well, that is also experienced by the other countries.
In this episode, we will analyze the rise and potential fall of Europe's biggest economy.
The situation overall is not great. The German economy is shrinking, and companies are telling us, yes, they expect a certain stabilization, but overall, most companies are pessimistic.
We will look under the hood of Germany's economic success.
What is the German recipe for success? So far, that was to produce technologically advanced products that are in high demand all over the world.
We will assess the gravity of its problems.
Man darf nicht blauäugig sein. Wir haben konjunkturelle Belastungen jetzt, aber wir haben auch strukturelle Probleme, an denen wir arbeiten.
And we will ask, is Germany's economic success model doomed?
That's all coming up on Business Beyond.
To understand Germany's problems today, we have to dissect what made the country successful in the first place.
During the 1990s, Germany's economy was struggling. Reunification merged a successful capitalist economy with a socialist planned economy. Absorbing the East meant West Germany had to dish out big social security payments. The consequences strained Germany's budget and its job market.
20 years ago, early 2000s, late 1990s, segment of Europe, we had actually only one big problem in Germany, and there was, or maybe two, it was the aftermath of the reunification, and we had surging unemployment.
To turn the country's economic woes around, the center-left government of Gerhard Schröder introduced reforms that greased the wheels of the job market. They cut employment benefits and created more temporary and low-paying jobs.
The first thing is, it really led to labor market reforms that lowered wages, or made people more willing to accept jobs at wages that perhaps otherwise they would not have considered.
More people working in lower wage jobs meant labor became cheaper, so German companies could make and sell goods at a better price. At the same time, other parts of the world started buying more stuff.
When you look back over the last 20 years, we had China joining the global economy. We had also Eastern European economies joining the European Union. We had many emerging economies clearly catching up with the developed world. So all these factors together were creating a huge demand force for manufacturing goods.
Road marking machinery, custom-made tunnel drills, printing machines for stage design, and specialized endoscopy devices. Made in Germany became synonymous with precision and quality. The country went from laggard to leader. It inspired literature and flashy economic papers. It even won the World Cup.
What is the German recipe for success? So far, that was to produce technologically advanced products that are in high demand all over the world.
Its fastest growing buyer, China. China's emergence as a market economy in the 2000s played into the hands of German engineers. German exports to the country surged.
That was a completely new market, and it was a huge market, and it was really very profitable to go there and sell our products.
Thanks to Beijing's boom, Germany became the world's third biggest exporter.
But since then, the sunny outlook has become cloudy.
As long as things go fine, it's like, okay, big party, but the moment the world economy hits a bit of a bump in the road, like now, the German economy suffers immediately.
The World Bank says the global economy is perilously close to falling into recession. War in Ukraine and the continuing effects of the pandemic mean it has significantly downgraded its expectations for this year.
Germany's economic model made it extremely dependent on appetite for German products. And right now, that appetite is waning.
Particularly in one of its most important markets. After peaking in 2020, the share of Germany's exports to China has been on a steady decline. Remember BASF, the German chemical giant? They recorded a 76% profit loss in the second quarter of 2023. The main reason? Lagging demand from China. And it's no outlier.
So if something goes wrong in China, it immediately means the demand for, say, German cars is falling, but the demand for German engineering, machine tools, Siemens-type big engineering projects is falling as well.
On the one hand, Germany is a giant exporter of consumer goods, so products that are ready to use, like cars and medicine. On the other hand, the German economy also depends on selling capital goods, so products that are used to produce other things.
And so the Germans export fewer consumer goods to China, fewer capital goods to China, and fewer capital goods to countries that export consumer goods to China. So it's basically, once you have a tailspin, in Germany it hits 3 times, where in other economies it would just be the exports in the narrower sense, the consumer goods that would be hit.
The global demand driving Germany's success is dampening, but that's not the only problem. Remember the energy crisis here in Europe? It really turned Germany's industry on its head.
Let's go back to the BASF plant. On any given day, it uses more power than Switzerland. Factories like these make Germany's industry much more energy intensive than that of its neighbors.
That wasn't much of a problem while Russia provided cheap gas to the country. But with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Germany's era of affordable energy ended. And so did momentum for German manufacturing.
During the second quarter of 2022, sky-high natural gas prices jolted BASF's energy bill up by more than 700 million euros.
So at the moment, we are paying the price of a delayed energy transition. We were too heavily dependent, especially on Russian gas, and this is why now we see also a fossil energy inflation or fossil price also inflation, and with this also a stagnation of the German economy at the moment.
BASF was forced to shut down its most energy-intensive production lines. Some 700 jobs are affected. All the while, its expansion plans for China remain intact.
Up until about a year ago, I think people would say that incorrectly say that businesses care about 2 things only when they decide on where to locate, and that is taxes and wages. And then since a year ago, they would say it's taxes and wages and energy.
Germany now made it out of last year's energy crisis, and prices have been falling. But lasting economic damage may have been done.
So yes, energy prices have come down again since the surge last year and in the first week after the start of the war in Ukraine. But the energy prices are still higher than pre-pandemic. Plus, the future of energy supply and the future of energy prices is highly uncertain. And this explains why, and I guess, it's understandable why businesses, corporates, are also looking elsewhere to see, okay, is there another region that might offer more stability, more clarity, more energy security than Germany currently can?
Rising prices and falling orders have hurt Germany's gas-guzzling industry. It's making less of the things that made it rich.
And that's making a country known for its efficiency lose momentum. Right now, Germans work fewer hours, so are less productive than employees in other industrial nations.
We are in a process of deindustrialization because production is falling, and I don't see it easily coming back.
If demand outside the country is falling, economic engines inside the country become more important, like how much people buy. But that's the issue. They aren't buying enough.
I think the problem in Germany has been that private consumption has systematically been too low.
Relatively low wages helped jumpstart Germany's export machine 20 years ago. But now they're making matters worse.
Wages cannot rise much more. Wages don't rise much more. So the effect is that private demand doesn't grow much in Germany, which means that the German economy is even more dependent on exports than it would otherwise have been. So wages have to be kept under control because it depends on exports. So domestic demand falls, export, become even more important as a proper portion.
According to a study by the Knowledge from Growth Institute, Germans' wage expectations this September were the lowest they've been since the beginning of the survey in 1991. But it's not just low income suppressing consumption. Germans' wallets are also under stress from rampant inflation and high energy prices.
With low demand inside the country, Germany's export sector will likely remain its biggest economic engine. But when it comes to the goods it sells, analysts believe Germany has been betting on the same horse for too long. All the while, the racetrack has changed.
We only just have to ask ourselves, what is it that we're mainly purchasing on a daily basis? Is it an app or is it really a good? And I think most people will answer, well, indeed, it is an app. It is music, it is a movie, but it is not kind of a tangible manufactured good. And this is where the German economy is not that strong, and this is also where the German industry is hit the most.
As Germany's traditional export industry declines, the question is what next big thing will replace it? So far, there's no clear answer.
Except for software maker SAP, Germany's tech sector is essentially non-existent, and that's no coincidence. The German government has been frugal concerning its future. For the past 2 decades, it has invested significantly less into its economy than its European neighbors.
But I think, we've done well. And when we do well, we just, think that we have everything we need.
Marianne Janik is the CEO of Microsoft in Germany.
Berlin's frugality is linked to a cultural dislike for public debt in Germany. It's a relic of the hyperinflation of the Weimar Republic.
Fiscal policy in Germany is, to put it mildly, is repressive, right? I mean, you talk about a black zero, the schwarze Null, but a zero means nothing in fiscal policy. It's not good to have a zero because it means essentially that you're not investing in the future, right? It's like you have to think of your economy as a house that you buy over 30 years or longer, not as a household that has to meet sort of weekly or monthly budget constraints. That's not how you do it.
One crucial sector that has been underfunded is IT. Only 1/3 of all German households have very high-speed internet connection, and the country's workforce is less digitally savvy than that of many other European countries.
Ich empfehle, nicht schwarzmalerisch zu sein, aber eben auch nicht blauäugig. Wir müssen Dinge verändern. Wir haben ja auch eine große Transformation unserer Wirtschaft vor uns.
That's Christian Lindner, Germany's finance minister. His government recently approved budget cuts for investments in digitalization.
Germany being the country where you just think about efficiency, about cost reduction. And this also, doesn't help when you have to evolve. You have to invest, of course, in those digital infrastructures. So we've done a little bit too well, maybe.
Digitalization is one of Germany's keys to more economic growth. But at the moment, 40% of Germany's small and medium-sized businesses can't find employees with necessary digital expertise.
For one, the country's society is aging, so there aren't enough workers to fill vacancies. But it's also because the people who can work don't have the right training.
Was wir merken, ist, dass aufgrund der Krise einfach ein höheres Interesse da ist, sich für digitale Berufe zu qualifizieren.
Dalia Das founded an IT bootcamp in Hamburg. Retraining schools like this one are becoming more common. They offer to bring employees up to speed.
Deutschland hinkt auf jeden Fall bei der Digitalisierung hinterher. Und ich glaube, wenn wir es nicht schaffen, eben alle Gruppen mitzunehmen und digitaler zu machen, dann wird uns das auch noch eine ganze Weile lang verfolgen.
To bring its economy on a future-fit path, Germany now plans to double its funding for AI and create new university labs for research. But for progress in these highly advanced technologies, Germany will first need to mend the craters in its digital foundation.
There's a lot of potential, and there are also companies, there's a lot of research going on in Germany. The entire IT sector, we are not very good at it so far, but there's a lot of potential for development.
Germany's export market is waning and its tech sector is weak, so experts say it's important to explore new areas of growth.
We have to see there are huge opportunities out there in many sectors, and how can we be successful in developing them? I think it's mostly based on our ability to be innovative, do research.
Innovation begets economic growth, but it's not an area Germany performs well in. A 2023 study placed it 10th worldwide, behind countries like Singapore, Switzerland, and Denmark.
But lack of innovation isn't coming from a lack of ideas. Germany registers more patents in Europe than any other European country. The issue is turning those ideas into German businesses.
The first hurdle is made up of paper. Lots of it. Germany is infamous for its bureaucracy. It takes more than 120 days to start a new company here, compared to just 40 in Italy or Greece. And construction permits take more than 50% longer than the average for industrialized countries. The second hurdle, also paper. Let's look at Marvel Fusion, for example. The Munich deep tech startup wants to produce zero-carbon energy with atomic fusion. It's thriving and expanding massively. It recently announced the construction of its first lab worth $150 million in the United States. This is Heike Freund. She's the COO of Marvel Fusion.
If I compare the European ecosystem to the US ecosystem, especially when it comes to investments, more than 90% of all the investments globally have been done in the US and not in Europe, in the private fusion company space.
Giant funding like the one Marvel Fusion needed is still hard to come by in Germany, meaning many ideas get stopped in their tracks.
I believe we have amazing human capital here, we have great talent here, we have a great industrial ecosystem here, so Germany would have all the pieces here to develop the next tech champions, but with that missing funding gap, it's close to impossible to commercialize those innovations at the end in Europe.
At the beginning of this video, we asked whether Germany's economic success model is doomed. The experts we spoke to painted a picture of a country whose prosperity is threatened, not only by short-term problems, but also by structural issues. Even Germany's finance minister admits to that.
Man darf nicht blauäugig sein. Wir haben konjunkturelle Belastungen jetzt, aber wir haben auch strukturelle Probleme, an denen wir arbeiten. Fachkräfte, Energie, Infrastruktur, Digitalisierung.
Ample trade, cheap energy, and strong industry fueled Germany's boom times. They lulled leaders into a false sense of security. Their failure to pursue reforms is now coming back to bite.
It doesn't make sense to try and keep things as they are. Everything changes, so we have to change as well.
Now, Germany has to find a new economic engine. That will entail breaking out of existing patterns.
So in the current situation, it will not be possible to orchestrate a full overhaul of the German economy and sticking to the fiscal debt brake.
Investing in the future.
We should be broad, and politicians don't need to answer this question. What are the sectors of the future, but they have to create conditions that allow for developments in many areas.
Improving energy supply.
I mean, the current government has now made a lot of decisions to increase the share of renewables much faster than in the past. So a lot of barriers have been removed. There are now windmills installed a little bit faster, but a lot of solar PVs on the roofs. That is increasing at the moment. So this is going in the right direction.
And boosting a dwindling workforce.
Pay them better and they will come. I mean, you know, there is no, it's not a mystery.
At the same time, experts say that Germany's success as an export power shouldn't be buried completely.
But it doesn't mean we have to throw away our comparative advantage. For instance, in trade, I think the German government at the moment is doing, in that case, the right thing. They're saying, let's try and do new trade agreements with Latin America, with other countries.
So you sort of have an interesting problem, is that the slump in Germany will be more accentuated because of its industrial structure and its sort of position in the international division of labor. But the inverse happens when the world economy picks up again, because then Germany is the first one to benefit from.
One thing is certain, the cushy years are coming to an end. What Germany does with that realization will determine the strength of its economy in the years to come.
Germany has been sort of the engine of the European economy, so people worry, people ask. But on the other hand, you know, I think it's a good thing that we get a little bit of attention as well. That makes us also reflect a little bit and get this reflection, this perspective from the outside, so that we as, you know, German economy, German companies, German industry start to reflect a little bit what we want to stand for.
And that's it from this episode of Business Beyond. If you want to dive deeper into the German economy, check out our recent video on German carmakers' problems selling electric vehicles.